Young Nika, born into a top-tier wealthy family, must wait until she turns 18 to inherit her entire estate due to her parents' mysterious disappearance. Should she die in an accident before then, the inheritance would pass to someone else. To ensure she inherits everything, her grandfather selects 2 exceptional maids from his own maid kingdom specifically for her. Nika is a high school student and a star kendo club member. Today, she participates in a competition, and her school is closed for her brother Kosuke to watch her compete, a decision made by their grandfather. Surprised by this, Nika is left speechless. Her grandfather also insists that she move back to the old family mansion, which boasts a view of Mount Fuji and his maid kingdom. However, Nika is not interested in such a lavish lifestyle. Preferring a normal life, Nika's desire clashes with her grandfather's perception that she and Kosuke might not be living well. He sends a car to their place, only to find it cluttered with trash. Thinking they can live humbly, but not untidily, he introduces maid Fubuki to take care of them. Fubuki, strikingly beautiful, has already cleaned their home, transforming it from its previously messy state. Kosuke is happy to live without clutter and with a gorgeous maid to look after them. However, Nika believes that children from ordinary families shouldn't have maids. Her grandfather, realizing Fubuki hasn't won Nika over, introduces another maid, a rugged man dressed in maid attire, clutching a bunch of wild animals, claiming to be her protector. Nika is bewildered by this strange arrangement. This maid, Kogarashi, was hard to find, chosen for his strong, warrior-like presence to appeal to Nika's tastes, yet still a maid, making him a rare find. Nika insists she needs neither maids nor butlers, yet Kogarashi points out her laundry wasn't clean. Even bringing her fresh underwear. Which infuriates her. She expels everyone from her home. Kosuke sighs, noting it's rare for their grandfather to visit, but Nika reminds him of their pact to strive on their own until their parents return. Unbeknownst to Nika, her grandfather has received news of the plane crash involving their parents. No bodies were found, and he suspects foul play as many family members have recently met untimely deaths. With only 6 months until Nika turns 18, her grandfather, as the clan head, plans to transfer part of the inheritance to her. He entrusts Fubuki and Kogarashi to care for and protect Nika. Amidst this, Kosuke shouts that Nika is buried under a pile of trash. They quickly rescue her and spend days cleaning up the house. Afterwards, the 2 maids moved in smoothly. With their feeding, Nika gained 1.8 kilograms in 3 days. Nika initially wanted to skip breakfast secretly until she lost the weight. However, just one glance from Kogarashi was enough for him to know Nika's weight and measurements. This infuriated Nika so much that she punched Kogarashi and stormed out of the house. Kosuke quickly followed her. Nika felt that the arrival of the 2 maids indeed improved their life, but Kogarashi shouldn't casually scrutinize a girl's figure. She felt like she lost something very important. During a visit from their grandfather, Kosuke complained to him that Kogarashi took away something important from Nika. The grandfather was furious and rushed to the villa, only to find Fubuki had beaten Kogarashi half to death. Fubuki understood Nika's discomfort about being critiqued on her figure, so they paused classes to discuss Kogarashi's choice of lingerie for Nika. Kosuke said Nika felt Kogarashi did not regard her as a woman, which led to a misunderstanding that she wanted to wear sexier clothes. Nika scolded him again, blaming their grandfather for forcing Kogarashi on them. The grandfather was visibly upset. Nika knew her grandfather meant well with the maids, so she regretted her harsh words. However, she believed enduring hardships in youth was never a mistake. Fubuki sighed, recognizing the need to protect the siblings and keep a close watch on Kogarashi. One evening, when Nika went out for a run to skip dinner and lose weight, Kogarashi told her she didn't need to diet since she was still growing. Fubuki gave Nika a whistle, explaining that blowing it would make Kogarashi feel her anger. Nika tried it, and seeing Kogarashi in pain, she learned that blowing it for over 10 seconds could kill him. She stopped immediately, but Kogarashi collapsed, nearly getting burned by oil. The siblings scrambled for a fire extinguisher, marking the beginning of their chaotic life with only 100 days left until Naika's inheritance. Naika's friends Izumi and Miwa often came to compete when results were announced, with Naika usually finishing last. Izumi teased her for being all brawn and no brains. Unbeknownst to Naika, Kogarashi had disguised himself to sneak into the classroom upon hearing her poor academic performance and decided to help improve her grades. At the kendo club, the captain said Naika's poor grades required a halt in training to focus on studying. This was painful for Naika, as she also used kendo as a way to lose weight. The captain warned her to improve her grades soon, especially before a national competition where they couldn't afford to miss their key player. Naika tearfully returned to study. Fubuki learned from Naika that if she fails the exam tomorrow, she must stop training and take remedial classes for a month. As a result, Naika, who is fed daily, might swell up like dough. Additionally, if she scores below 30, she might have to work in the boys' kendo club, where the boys only ogle her figure. Therefore, Naika asked Fubuki to teach her math, but Fubuki could only shake her head in regret, apologizing for her poor math skills. Just as Naika felt desperate, Kogarashi burst into the room with a bunch of strange items and offered her a brain-enhancing drink, claiming it had the caloric content of 30 glasses of milk. Naika refused, but Kogarashi insisted, until Fubuki punched him out of the room. Kosuke then finished the drink, adding more belly fat. Naika was relieved she didn't drink it. Since Kogarashi had no other option, he decided to teach Naika math himself. Naika doubted Kogarashi's capabilities, but Fubuki quietly told her that Kogarashi used to teach at MIT, a place known for producing numerous Nobel laureates in mathematics, which is a temple of math. Kogarashi suggested that Fubuki would only hold them back, so he sent her out of the room. Naika understood how Fubuki felt, but neither of them were as good at math as Kogarashi. Despite his efforts, Naika couldn't grasp the concepts, even mistaking 1 + 1 for 3, claiming it was a tactical approach. After a frustrating session, Kogarashi decided to have Naika memorize her notes, only to discover she never took any. Kogarashi then used a copier connected to his brain to reproduce the math notes for Naika to memorize from images. Naika finally took her studies seriously, put on glasses, picked up the notes, and promptly fell asleep, as math acted like a sleeping pill for her. Kogarashi, never having seen such an inept student, feared for her grades. Kosuke suggested connecting her brain to a machine. Meanwhile, Fubuki brewed some coffee for them. Just as she was about to bring it in, she heard Naika scream. Fubuki rushed in and knocked Kogarashi away as he tried to feed math problems to Naika. Naika woke up dazed, realizing it was already morning and feeling her life was over. Fubuki then had a dubious idea. Since big breasts mean no brains, perhaps binding Naika's chest smaller could boost her intelligence. Kogarashi and Kosuke were speechless, but Fubuki insisted on trying, saying faith could work miracles. Unfortunately, the bandage couldn't contain Naika's bust, but Kogarashi pulled out a steel corset. Fubuki watched as Naika left in the corset, resigning to fate. During the makeup exam, Naika had a burst of inspiration, but the steel corset couldn't contain her development, causing the exam hall to collapse, shocking everyone with its explosive impact. To compete for the new dojo's rights, the girls' kendo team and the boys' kendo team had a match. The loser would give up the new dojo. The boys agreed, but demanded that if they won, Naika would have to do as they said. Naika sliced one of them with a real sword. Kogarashi, who was watching, sensed a killer's intent aimed at Naika. Meanwhile, Miwa and others asked Naika if she was interested in romance. Naika, thinking lowly of the men around her, declared she had no illusions about love. Opening her locker, she found what looked like a love letter and quickly hid it in her backpack, rushing home. She entered her room, drew the curtains, and pondered whether it was a love letter, recalling a failed confession to a senior she admired. After that, she had given up on love. Naika hesitated to throw away the letter but considered opening it. Just then, Kogarashi appeared, causing Naika to scream and run, hitting a wall and fainting. Kosuke and Fubuki arrived and helped the unconscious Naika rest while becoming curious about the letter. Kogarashi feared it might be a trap, but Fubuki thought receiving a love letter was normal for someone as charming as Naika. Kogarashi prepared to inspect the letter, but Fubuki insisted it should only be opened by Naika. However, Kogarashi, with X-ray vision, saw it was an invitation for Naika to meet at the gym tomorrow. Fubuki knocked Kogarashi out, insisting on not interfering with Naika's life, though Kosuke mentioned Naika had a phobia of romance. Kosuke told Fubuki that Naika once had romantic dreams until a terrible incident. A senior, who was clueless, almost died eating a lunch Naika made, realizing too late her modest claim of poor cooking skills. That night, the senior left by bullet train, transferring schools. Naika was devastated and sealed away her heart. Kogarashi thoughtfully sat up. Elsewhere, Naika dreamed she was called a poison girl and woke up screaming, receiving a call from her friend Izumi, who asked about the letter. Naika lied about throwing it away, but Kogarashi suddenly appeared with the letter, asking if she wanted it destroyed. Naika grabbed it, claiming she read it only out of politeness and had no interest in romance. Kogarashi flipped her bed, revealing a collection of pure love, manga, and novels, even a dating procedure. Naika blushed as Fubuki stormed in and knocked Kogarashi to the ground. Kogarashi felt Naika was avoiding romance, which wasn't growth, and decided to help her overcome her mental block by mixing a drink. Naika refused any drink from Kogarashi unless it was 0 calorie. After hearing it wouldn't cause weight gain, she drank it only to find out it was a love potion. Naika turned and tackled Fubuki. Kogarashi said he'd take his brother out for an hour to let them enjoy some time together. Fubuki was knocked to the ground, and as Kogarashi was about to leave, veins bulged on his forehead. Then, as the grandfather and the maid arrived home, they found Kogarashi covered in blood. Both his brother and Naika were tied up, and Fubuki, disheveled, was holding a bloody club. Fubuki then suggested a solution. Since Naika felt her cooking was poor, she should regain confidence through cooking shrimp tempura. Fubuki decided to teach her. Naika ended up blowing up the kitchen but managed to serve 3 slightly burnt shrimp tempura. Kosuke was terrified but was forced by Fubuki to taste them. Surprisingly, they were edible. Not delicious, but at least they tasted like normal food. Thus, Naika succeeded. Feeling capable of romance again, Naika gathered the courage to open the envelope. The letter inside asked her to meet behind the gym tomorrow. The more she thought about it, the happier she became, even daydreaming during class. Izumi and Miwa noticed Naika's unusual state, reminding her that they didn't know who the sender was. Realizing it might be someone she disliked, as the letter was unsigned, made Naika hesitate. Miwa advised Naika not to go, but Naika felt it was a chance to overcome her psychological shadow and revive her romantic fantasies. After school, she hurried to the gym, only to find a quiet, bespectacled, beautiful girl named Midori, who admired Naika. Seeing Midori, Naika realized she wasn't into girls. Mistaking her hesitation, Kogarashi thought Naika was trying to escape her fears, so he locked Naika and Midori in a strange room, claiming he did his best for them, respecting all of Naika's interests. Midori then tackled Naika. Luckily, Naika knew some kendo and escaped with only a few kiss marks, then grabbed a sword to confront Kogarashi for his actions. While studying, Naika accidentally fell asleep, sneezed when she went to close a window, and noticed someone outside mocking her as a brainless heiress. Just then, Fubuki brought snacks and sensed movement outside. She told Naika to stay calm, revealing that 3 sneaky individuals had entered the yard. Fubuki assured Naika not to worry, as Kogarashi was already lying in ambush in the garden. After being beaten by Kogarashi, the 3 individuals confessed. They were members of an underwear theft ring, and believed the underwear they targeted was the most attractive. They thought Naika should feel proud. Naika found them absurd and hit them with a stick. The trio clarified their actual target was not Naika, but Fubuki. While Kogarashi called the police, 2 of them distracted him as their boss snatched the underwear and fled. However, he mistakenly grabbed Naika's underwear. In his frustration, a blonde girl with twin ponytails appeared and delivered justice to the boss. Kogarashi arrived only to find the scene and Naika's underwear gone. Fubuki deemed it an unforgivable sin against women and insisted the culprits must pay. Thus, Kogarashi, following Fubuki's orders, found a driver who witnessed the boss fleeing the previous night. After questioning, Kogarashi confirmed the boss was pursued by 2 individuals, one wearing pink strawberry panties. To thank the driver, Kogarashi bought his fish and reported back to Fubuki, then began searching the town for the individual codenamed Strawberry. Meanwhile, a new student, Elizabeth, joined Naika's class. Reportedly, her parents were abroad, and she was an exceptional young lady who had skipped a grade to sophomore year. Elizabeth was seated next to Nika. The teacher, excited to meet a genius for the first time, was thrilled. Elizabeth greeted Nika, admiring her kendo performance. Nika felt uneasy, recalling a similar situation with Midori. Elizabeth turned out to be a sadist, excited at the thought of Nika begging on her knees. She also commented on Nika's bust and challenged her to a duel, laughing as she left the classroom. The teacher remarked on her skipping class. After class, Elizabeth's maid, Shizuku, brought her replacement shoes. Shizuku thought Elizabeth was childish, but Elizabeth saw it as a noble's hunting game, with Nika as her prey. Excited about the hunt, Elizabeth was reminded by Shizuku to come home on time. Elizabeth felt she was being treated like a child. Neither noticed Kogarashi passing by the window. Shizuku later realized, but found no one. Meanwhile, Kogarashi searched the school for strawberry panties. Fubuki warned him not to strip others, but Kogarashi, unfazed and claiming he'd seen it all, was promptly blown up by a bomb Fubuki activated. On the other hand, Nika went to kendo practice and found Elizabeth had indeed come to challenge her. Nika disagreed, since she viewed Elizabeth as just a child. However, Elizabeth insisted she was no child and produced photos she had secretly taken of Nika. She threatened to send them to the boys' kendo club and Midori if Nika refused to duel. Angered, Nika grabbed the photos, and at that moment, the previously blown-away Kogarashi woke up. He soon realized a new girl was confronting Nika and reported this to Fubuki before being attacked by Shizuku. At this time, Nika and Izumi began their duel, a best-of-3 match. Nika won the first round, but Elizabeth fought back in the second by throwing Nika's photos into the crowd, distracting her and winning the round. The final round began seriously, as both recognized each other's strength. Meanwhile, Kogarashi was battling Shizuku, a ninja maid who used gadgets to attack. She hid and communicated via call, thinking Kogarashi wouldn't find her. However, Kogarashi, with his X-ray vision, quickly discovered the hiding Shizuku. He not only caught Shizuku, but also saw her underwear, which he mistakenly grabbed and then returned, embarrassing her. After leaving Shizuku, Kogarashi went to check on Nika. By then, Nika and Elizabeth had been fighting for an hour without conceding. As the final move approached, Elizabeth played dirty again by pulling out the underwear she had stolen from Nika, causing Nika to panic. At that moment, Kogarashi intervened, summoning crows to snatch the underwear, which also knocked Elizabeth over. It turned out Elizabeth had more of Nika's underwear in her bag. Nika commented that Elizabeth got what she deserved. Suddenly, a crow attacked her chest. As things settled, Kogarashi's inappropriate action towards Elizabeth was too much for Fubuki, who then exploded Kogarashi. The duel between Naika and Elizabeth ended in a draw, and the underwear was blown beyond recognition. Elizabeth vowed not to spare Nika next time, and upon returning home, Nika and her group found one more pair of underwear missing. Her brother returned with a game worth 70,000, reminding them of the underwear thief's words about Nika's underwear selling for 70,000 apiece. Nika immediately beat up Kosuka. Since her last duel with Nika, Elizabeth had been traumatized by the crows to the point of wetting the bed. Shizuku mocked her while hanging from the roof, but was disciplined by her twin sister Tsurara, who is also Elizabeth's bodyguard maid. Tsurara scolded Shizuku for not gathering enough information on Nika and emphasized the importance of intelligence in modern warfare. Elizabeth now loathed Nika, who didn't understand why she was being stared down so fiercely in class. The situation felt ominous. On the other hand, Midori, secretly in love with Nika, installed a camera outside Nika's bathroom and recorded a 4-hour video to capture Nika bathing. Nika appeared in the frame wrapped in a towel, exciting Midori, who rubbed her hands together. However, the video suddenly emitted a strange noise that hypnotized Midori, freezing her body and forcing her to keep watching. The video then resumed, but the person bathing had changed to the driver. Unable to close her eyes due to the hypnosis, Midori painfully watched the entire scene, eventually screaming in dismay. Kogarashi smiled slightly, his trap having worked successfully. Kogarashi then revealed the real video to Nika and Kosuke, which included footage of Fubuki trying on Nika's school uniform. Embarrassed, Fubuki covered the video and remarked, "Why can't this skirt stay up? Has Nika gained weight again?" Upon seeing Nika, Fubuki froze, then turned and beat Kogarashi up. asserting their mission was to protect Neka and her brother, and thus, they must not leak any information about Neka, especially now during an information war. Meanwhile, Shizuku retrieved videos from 30 surveillance cameras near Neka's house to gather intelligence, but found the footage had been replaced. Tsurara stated that hypnosis had no effect on professional maids like them, only to find her sister Shizuku had fallen victim to it. Annoyed, Tsurara let Shizuku remain hypnotized to teach her a lesson. Midori, obsessed with Neka, noticed 3 other boys from the kendo club eyeing Neka and decisively stole their keys, blowing them up to monopolize the locker room key. However, as soon as she opened the locker room door, she was hypnotized by Kogarashi hiding inside. Kogarashi quickly checked Midori to confirm she was not an assassin, then told her to stay put. When the kendo club boys arrived, they found Midori frozen in place, creating a rather awkward scene. Elsewhere, Tsurara and Shizuku, disguised as regular high school girls, decided to secretly observe Elizabeth at school. Although Tsurara looked more mature compared to her sister Shizuku, who appeared younger, Tsurara hated when age was mentioned. Pretending to be a second-year transfer student, she planned to visit the kendo club where Naika was. However, the club members unanimously believed Tsurara was not a second-year student, guessing she was at least 20 years old. Hearing her own voice inside the door, Tsurara cracked. At that moment, Shizuku entered the locker room and hypnotized everyone there. Just as she opened Naika's locker, she was hypnotized by Kogarashi hiding inside. Luckily, Shizuku managed to call out Tsurara's name in time. Tsurara rushed to the scene and began fighting Kogarashi, who remarked that it was no wonder Tsurara looked strange, realizing she was Naika's enemy and vowing not to let her go easily. At that moment, Tsurara threw a bomb, but found Kogarashi completely unharmed. However, Tsurara had intentionally used such a bomb to weaken Kogarashi's sense of smell and touch, making him only able to passively take hits. Tsurara attacked while using bombs to block Kogarashi's senses, believing Kogarashi would surely break down. Yet, Kogarashi easily escaped his restraints and, with a flick of his hair, transformed it into tentacles that tied up Tsurara. Shizuku tried to free her sister from the tentacles, and at that time, Midori, who had awakened in the room, heard the noise and rushed out, only to be thrown out by Shizuku as a decoy. Amidst the chaos, Shizuku rescued Tsurara. Naika, returning to the locker room after training, saw Kogarashi manhandling Midori and immediately beat him up, almost being tackled by Midori herself. Tsurara and Shizuku returned home without even changing out of their high school uniforms. Elizabeth, upon seeing them, shook her head and commented that Tsurara, at her age, didn't need to disguise herself as a high school girl. Tsurara broke down again and vowed to make Kogarashi apologize. During a fall sale at the shopping mall, fresh large crabs were limited to 1 per person. Fubuki asked Naika and Kosuke to help her buy them. Along the way, Fubuki sneezed suddenly. Naika, worried about Fubuki's health, learned that she had lectured Kogarashi that morning. The trio realized they were attracting attention, as it was rare to see someone with a maid in public. While waiting for the elevator, Kosuke mentioned that Naika had gained weight again. Disbelieving, Naika entered the elevator only to find it overweight and immediately broke down. Back home, she vowed to lose weight and insisted everyone join in. After all, Kosuke was the heaviest in the house. Fubuki and Kogarashi noted that maids have no weight loss standards, especially since Kogarashi had levitation skills and couldn't even weigh himself. As for Fubuki, she weighed only 35 kilograms, which shocked Naika. However, Kogarashi pointed out a needle obstructing the scale's dial. Kosuke quickly removed the needle, and the weight shot up to 85 kilograms, given that Fubuki was a combat maid carrying all her battle gear. Kogarashi hinted at revealing Fubuki's true weight with his X-ray vision, but was promptly punished by Fubuki, who also agreed to lose weight. Kosuke, indifferent to his own weight, was more interested in tasting delicious food. The first step in their diet was to steam in a sauna for detoxification. Fubuki also concocted a special metabolic pill, claiming that 1 pill a day could triple the weight loss effect. Naika, upon hearing this, decided to ingest a handful at once, which made her sweat profusely, nearly leading to a serious mishap. When she weighed herself later, she found only a slight weight reduction. Curious about Kozuki's whereabouts, she saw him emerge much thinner. However, this slim appearance lasted only a few minutes before he regained weight after drinking several large buckets of cola. Then, Kogarashi stepped forward, claiming he had a trick that could shake off excess fat with the skillful vibration of his hands, particularly around the chest area of Nika and Fubuki, who then furiously beat him up. Since external methods failed to help lose weight, Nika decided to start a light fast. Fubuki supported her decision, while Kosuke tried to escape but couldn't. Several days later, the three, barely alive from hunger, were lying in the room. Unable to deal with them, Kogarashi used his magical eyes to send them hallucinations, such as losing only chest size with weight loss, or turning into a man if they lost too much weight. Despite the supposed benefits, Nika and Fubuki couldn't tolerate it, and crawled out of the room. Kogarashi revived Kosuke with a cola, and urged Nika and Fubuki to go downstairs to eat. Unexpectedly, Fubuki suddenly fell ill, having had a slight cold before and exacerbating it with Nika's antics. Nika felt guilty and decided to buy groceries to take care of Fubuki. Meanwhile, Fubuki searched her medicine box and found she was out of the cold medicine she needed. Kogarashi remarked that Fubuki's body was too frail compared to his iron body, and was slapped out the window by her. Fubuki insisted that a maid and guard couldn't stay sick in bed, and sent Kogarashi to find medicine. At the same time, Nika put on Fubuki's maid outfit to personally take care of her, even cooking porridge for her. Known for her dangerous cooking skills, Fubuki couldn't reject Nika's kindness and had to prepare stomach medicine until the cold medicine was available. Kosuke told Fubuki that Nika had no ill intentions and had always wanted to nurse her mother since she was young. He added that Nika's caregiving skills hadn't improved since she was 5. Before then, Nika's mother often fell ill. But since Nika started using fire and knives, her mother hadn't been sick. Kosuke lamented that humans only evolve when their lives are at stake. Realizing the danger, Fubuki saw Nika bring more strange food, understanding why her mother stopped getting sick from fear of being poisoned. At this critical moment, Kogarashi was still on his way to fetch medicine. Fubuki, fearing death by Nika's hand, lied about her illness being cured, but collapsed once she stepped outside. Kosuke secretly took care of her. When Nika returned and found Fubuki collapsed again, she forcefully dragged her back for more care. Seeing the unknown dish, Fubuki blacked out and screamed. When Kogarashi returned, he revealed that the medicine wasn't from the Tianshan Mountains, but just moss found around the house, which made Fubuki's illness return, and Nika took her back for more dreadful care. Before a national kendo competition, there was an unwritten rule that the team would soak in a public bath to prepare. Nika wondered if she could skip the competition, which led to her team beating her up, highlighting how the protagonist is always either hitting or getting hit. Even the team captain noted that Nika never focused on the right things, feeling like her heiress background had been forgotten by the production team. At this time, the boys' kendo club was eavesdropping from the adjacent bathroom. They discovered Nika was considering quitting the competition because a legendary player, who had trained hard in the mountains for 3 years, was returning to compete. This woman, known as the Bear Slayer, had a brutal reputation. Miwa also recalled that this player had withdrawn from a competition 3 years ago for some reason and had not appeared since. Izumi was curious about any grudge between Nika and this player. Nika recounted an incident from 3 years ago. During the competition, Kuma, upon facing the seemingly weak Nika, felt lucky. Nika, seeing Kuma, impulsively asked the referee if it was fair for a man to compete in a women's event. The referee responded that Kuma was naturally that way, humorously pointing out how this incident predicted a similar situation in a women's boxing match in 2024. An angry Kuma immediately attacked Nika. As Nika apologized, Kuma, in her rush, accidentally had her skirt stripped by Nika's weapon, exposing herself in front of a national audience. Kuma lost not only the match, but also her dignity, and vowed to make Nika pay by stripping her in front of the crowd. Therefore, Nika did not want to attend the competition. Izumi felt Nika should not give up before even competing. However, Nika retorted by asking if Izumi knew why the tickets for the match sold out so quickly and why electronic sales around the area had surged. Was it because people couldn't remember this message? As Midori passed by the men's bathhouse, she overheard the boys' kendo club eagerly anticipating seeing Nika exposed. Midori thought they were pests. Meanwhile, Naika asked the club president if she could avoid participating. The president reassured her that winning would resolve everything. It was mentioned that after the competition, the school would sponsor a training trip to Okinawa for them. Naika smiled, looking forward to the trip, and mockingly reminded her sister that she could afford this small travel expense herself as a top-tier heiress. Everyone cheered for the trip to Okinawa, but Naika was still troubled by the thought of the competition. She rushed out wrapped in a towel and immediately encountered a battlefield. Kogarashi told her it was a hallucination, likening the competition to a battlefield where one should not retreat without fighting. Before Naika could react, Kogarashi bagged her and took her away to a shrine in the mountains. Upon waking, Elizabeth gave Kogarashi a beating. Fubuki reassured Naika that everything was fine. Kogarashi hadn't seen anything because he had carried Naika in a sack, and it was Fubuki who had changed her clothes. During this, Fubuki also beat up Kogarashi. Naika was taken to Mount Kurama, rumored to be haunted by Tengu. This trip was intended for Naika to train. She joked that she could even beat a black bear now, but Kogarashi actually brought her one, nearly causing her to faint. She later fell off a cliff due to a trap. Fubuki wondered if the special training was too harsh, but Naika decided to accept it, determined to defeat Kuma and preserve her dignity and integrity. Naika trained tirelessly on Mount Kurama for a week, reaching the skill level of slicing through water with her sword. Her final test was to face wooden stakes falling from the sky, a challenge impossible for humans. Despite her intense training, Naika couldn't overcome this and was knocked out. Meanwhile, Kuma returned with vengeance, and Midori had already purchased recording equipment. Izumi and others were considering vacation destinations after winning the match, each harboring various thoughts. On the day of the match, cameras were everywhere, as people remembered the rumors about Naika. Naika reassured Izumi and the others, confident in her abilities after training, and went to buy a swimsuit for practice. Kuma, still remembering her grudge, came down from the mountains after 3 years of rigorous training and even prepared a special potion. The match was intense, with flashes going off constantly. Both Naika and Kuma were formidable, but Naika, having undergone special training, focused and struck her target with one slice, winning the match. However, Kuma knocked Naika out, not caring about the result and intending to strip her. At that moment, Kogarashi stepped in front of Naika, using illusions to confuse Kuma. Kuma ended up stripping the group of men who tried to take unauthorized photos, and due to the violation, she left the arena. The men, having spent a lot on camera equipment, were devastated. The group then happily went on vacation, while Naika, injured, ended up in the hospital and couldn't join them. One morning, Naika was approached by a blonde man named Hend, who immediately proposed with roses. Naika was stunned. However, when Hend removed his glasses and they locked eyes, Naika felt an unexpected attraction. At that moment, Fubuki also came out, and Hend hypnotized her with his gaze. Luckily, Elizabeth arrived on horseback at the crucial moment, shooting an arrow to knock Hend unconscious and took him away. Kogarashi noted the intense approach of the man who left the roses. Hend quickly took over as the substitute teacher for Naika's class, referring to all the girls as his lovers. Initially, the girls were wary of Hend, but they fell for him as soon as he removed his glasses. Whenever Hend mentioned breasts, Elizabeth would appear suddenly to knock him out and leave with a mask. However, this time Elizabeth miscalculated. The incident took place on the 3rd floor, knocking her unconscious. Naika and others took Elizabeth to the stadium to find out what was going on with her brother, who behaved oddly. Elizabeth insisted her brother wasn't a pervert but was just ill. She revealed that this behavior started when she was 5, after her brother promised to be her groom, only to become distracted by women with prominent breasts as he grew older. At this point, Izumi suspected that Elizabeth had always been attached to her brother, realizing he preferred physically attractive women while she was impoverished, leading to her emotional breakdown. Miwa thought Izumi's statement about her brother was too exaggerated. How could there be such a brother in the world? Izumi, shocked, asked how she knew. Naika then comforted Elizabeth, suggesting she take this chance to give up on her brother since a man who judges women by their bust size isn't worth liking. However, to Elizabeth, her brother was the most charming man in the world. At the hospital, Hend woke up and saw the school nurse. He bewitched her with his eyes, convincing her to falsify a document. This scene was clearly seen by Naika and 3 others through the window. Elizabeth said this was her brother's charm, Any woman who meets his gaze falls for him. Meanwhile, Kogarashi and others found information on Hind. He possessed charming, magical eyes, a skill desired by monarchs and con artists through the ages. Elizabeth, however, believed this charm was her brother's natural allure. She was upset that her outstanding brother was attracted to Neka because of her large breasts. Neka, determined not to be bewitched by Hind, was unexpectedly taken to meet him. Using his eyes, Hind had already surrounded himself with admirers and even captured the club president, planning to become the Kendo Club advisor. The three uncharmed, including Neka, faced threats from those under his spell. Annoyed, Neka picked up a wooden sword and challenged Hind. Elizabeth wanted to help, but turned to see Kogarashi, who gave her a device that could awaken her brother. Opening the bag, Elizabeth decided to try it. Miwa and Izumi had already lost to Hind and had to blindfold themselves to avoid his enchantment, making fighting impossible. They then had a risky idea to prevent Hind's gaze from meeting Neka's by stripping her undergarments, forcing Hind to only look below her shoulders, disabling his charming ability. Hind warned Neka that fighting could make her clothes wet, restricting her actions. Just as Neka was about to lose, Elizabeth, in disguise, intervened. Izumi joked about her chest looking unusually large, but Hind didn't recognize her and invited her to join his harem. Furious, Elizabeth watched as Neka battled Hind. As her chest cover slipped, Elizabeth remembered the device from Kogarashi, pulled off the bow on her chest, and Hind's gaze immediately shifted. Blinded by the burst of light from the fake breasts, Neka seized the moment to strike hard. Eventually, Hind was hospitalized, and others walked away shielding their eyes. Neka learned from Kogarashi that all her undergarments were equipped with defensive gear. Kogarashi had become a pivotal figure near Neka's home, always able to help the local shopkeepers out of trouble. Impressed, Neka's two close friends decided to apprentice under Kogarashi, who believed helping neighbors was the best way to maintain good relations. Izumi and the others would need to ask Neka first, as Kogarashi was Neka's maid. Izumi and Miwa confessed to copying each other's homework. Neka simply nodded in approval. They hoped Kogarashi would guide them on how to revive their struggling workplace, a cake coffee shop where they worked, especially since a Maid cafe had opened across the street. Although Izumi and Miwa also wore maid outfits, the neighboring shop attracted mainly male otaku customers and advertised high wages, only hiring girls with large busts and mocking those less endowed. Fubuki thought that if they could attract female customers instead, it might solve their problem. However, the two were aware that business was tough, and only one of the competing cafes might survive, potentially leading to theirs being shut down. Neka decided to help them by infiltrating the neighboring cafe, but it was unsafe to go alone, so their eyes turned to Fubuki. Kogarashi tasted the manager's cake and declared it terrible. Miwa explained that the manager's despair was affecting his baking, making the cakes mediocre at best. They wanted Kogarashi's help to improve the menu. Neka followed Fubuki to sneak into the other cafe, but Fubuki ran off halfway. As a newcomer, Neka discovered that the owner was a busty beauty, and the staff were all attractively figured, drawing plenty of customers. She noticed the meals were overpriced and secretly tasted some cake, finding it awful. It seemed the cafe relied solely on its staff's looks. Neka reported this to Izumi via her phone. Izumi and Miwa prepared to encourage the manager to persevere, but he ran off, deeply discouraged. They then asked Kogarashi to take charge. Despite the popularity of the neighboring venue, they still felt insecure. Kogarashi insisted that running a cafe had nothing to do with bust size. It was all about the food. He then used hypnosis to draw customers to their Western-style restaurant and introduced a strangely shaped but delicious cake, immediately attracting many patrons. The female owner of the rival cafe was stunned while monitoring this. Neka realized they had lost due to the quality of the cakes. However, the female owner claimed Neka was naive, revealing her cafe wasn't really about selling cakes but about showcasing busty maid staff, leading her to retrain her staff on how to better display their figures. Neka criticized whether this was still a legitimate cafe. Meanwhile, Fubuki had slipped into Kogarashi's cafe following the crowd. Neka hurried over just as the female owner, unable to steal business, decided to personally investigate and demanded to see the chef who made the cakes. Kogarashi came forward with a cake containing tuna, and while she was distracted, he used a spike to puncture her blouse, revealing her bust was padded. They also mock the busty girls as bimbo with big breasts, which angers the two best figure staff members. At this moment, Kogarashi speaks up leisurely. Silicone of poor quality is harmful to health. Everyone then realizes that half of the busty staff in the neighboring cafe are fake, leading to a deflated atmosphere. Izumi seizes this opportunity to bring Neika forward to help. Kogarashi also pulls Fubuki out from the crowd. Thus, their cafe is revitalized. This is too abstract. If this old show was aired today, it would definitely be criticized. Why is everything about breasts? School is about to start. Naika realizes she hasn't completed her math homework, so she decides to ask two close friends for help. Her friends say it's a special assignment from the teacher to help Naika study hard. Overhearing this, Kogarashi immediately enters the room and decides to help, remarking that math is something one must understand thoroughly. Otherwise, one will never overcome it. Fubuki initially wants Kogarashi to be less harsh, but ends up getting scolded by him too. Kogarashi then mentions he has a secret method. If you really can't learn, pray to the gods. So he takes Neika and her friends to a very spiritual shrine. Neika feels like it's a scam. Upon reaching the shrine, they meet a very beautiful shrine maiden, Miko, who radiates strong spiritual power and once worked with Kogarashi. She immediately notices Neika is poor at math and says the shrine forbids men from entering, only allowing Neika and Fubuki inside. She declares that Neika will undergo a ritual where a deity will possess her body. Just as Neika enters, she finds Kuma and Elizabeth also at the shrine, praying because of Neika. Kuma for revenge, and Elizabeth traumatized by crows. Miko states they must offer tributes to please the deity to receive blessings. Today's contest will be tennis, doubles, best of 5 sets. Neika immediately loses a point at the start because the deity says Fubuki isn't wearing a skirt. The deity will also choose an MPV for special recognition. The match begins. Kuma, aiming to win, knocks Elizabeth out of the court. Fubuki realizes they can't afford to lose this match. Kuma then taunts Fubuki at the net. Miko mentions the deity enjoys the spectacle, so no rule violations are called. Kogarashi and Kosuke, unable to enter, can only watch from above. Kosuke tries to peek into the Shrine Maiden's changing room and is punished by the deity. Neika and her team win the first set. The teams switch sides. Elizabeth realizes Fubuki can compensate for Neika's weaknesses, so she decides to truly cooperate with Kuma, even tricking Kuma into lifting the floor to block attacks. The deity finds it amusing, so no foul is called. The second set goes to Elizabeth's team by using questionable tactics. The match is now tied at 1-1. Neika finds Fubuki dispirited, so she decides to speak up to encourage her, accidentally hitting a nerve with Fubuki. Although it indeed motivates Fubuki, the approach is completely wrong. Seeing Neika's team at a disadvantage, Kogarashi decisively sent an internal voice message reminding Neika of a foul in the first game. Neika suddenly remembered their real opponent should be the deity, so she pretended to accidentally lift Fubuki's skirt. Miko immediately received a message from the deity and awarded Neika's team an extra 1,000 points. What kind of abstract deity is this? At this moment, Neika's team was just 1 point away from winning the match. Before Fubuki could get angry at Neika, an enraged Kuma decided to strip Elizabeth. The deity had anticipated this and awarded only 200 consolation points. In frustration, Kuma stripped off his own clothes and directly challenged the deity, leading to Neika's team being declared the winner. Neika successfully obtained the mathematical amulet, which required wearing according to the instruction manual. However, the amulet's activation required Fubuki to provide a benefit. Unable to bear it, Fubuki returned to the shrine to clear her name as a confused maid. The deity tricked her into wearing revealing lingerie. Fubuki felt extremely embarrassed but complied, nearly getting caught by Kogarashi. Wasn't this supposed to be a battle for inheritance? Why is it all about selling sex appeal? It's not that it's bad to look at, but there has to be some logic. Don't you know that provided benefits are not as good as those fought over? That day, to everyone's shock, Neika went on a date with the previously most hated male kendo team leader. This started a few days earlier during a physical training session for the female kendo team, which involved sprinting upstairs. Neika's attractive figure drew attention, causing the male team leader to get overly excited and slip down the stairs. The doctor said he had injured his head and might never wake up. However, he was stimulated back to consciousness by Naka, but suffered from amnesia due to the accident. The doctor suggested it was a result of love and told Naka and her companions that other stimuli might help the leader regain his memories, and that Naka should take responsibility. So you're saying this creepy leader was staring at Naka's chest, slipped down the stairs, got amnesia, and now Naka is responsible? That's insane. If my sister encountered such nonsense, I can't even imagine the consequences. He'd be beaten severely. Is this how smoothly he saddled her with this? Out of a sense of duty, Naka agreed to the arrangement, leading to the temple festival date. Her girlfriends came purely for the spectacle. Naka greeted the leader, who only stared at her chest. Without a word, she kicked him. Her friends, worried she might have kicked him silly again, quickly pulled her back to break up the fight. Kogarashi, mistaking their interaction for romance, decided to facilitate Naka's love life but was knocked out by Fubuki. It was just a fake date. Their only job was to protect Naka. Turning around, they realized Kogarashi had run off. At the temple festival, Naka and the team leader were strolling around. Naka noticed the leader's broad back and suddenly blushed. Her friends, watching the scene, sensed something off. Is Naka falling for him? They wondered, suspecting the two might actually become a couple. Kogarashi, who was observing nearby, suddenly spoke up, suggesting they create an opportunity for the two. He then fired a cork gun at Naka's feet, causing her to stumble forward, right into the leader's arms. Izumi and Miwa remarked that this seemed like the start of a typical girl's manga. No. Who are you calling sleazy? Since when does a girl's manga have a creepy male lead? Caught by the leader, Naka was embarrassed. Before she could feel any thrill, the leader mentioned her soft breasts, and Naka responded with an elbow strike, sending him flying. Shortly after, Naka and the leader ran into Elizabeth and her brother Hend, who were buying shaved ice. Hend, accompanied by two busty women, greeted Naka's breasts. Naka didn't hesitate to beat Hend up. The leader asked Naka if she wanted to leave, puzzled why he wasn't interested in Hend's companions. The leader admitted he liked breasts, but only Naka's. That's a cool thing to say, but can't you like someone for who they are? What's the difference between that and being led by lust? At that moment, Kogarashi sneakily placed a goldfish inside Naka's clothing, pushing her towards a secluded forest to give them some privacy. Fubuki emerged and knocked Kogarashi down with a club. Izumi and Miwa shivered and followed into the forest. Everyone thought the leader might attack Naka. While she was searching her clothing for the goldfish, she felt the same. However, the leader only tackled her because there was a snake near her. He said he liked her breasts, but would never harm her without consent. Naka mused that if he had talked about her heart instead of her breasts, she might have seen him differently. Just then, Fubuki arrived and sent the leader flying with a blow, sending him back to the hospital. Fubuki felt guilty, but the leader woke up immediately upon hearing Fubuki's breasts shake. Nika sarcastically noted, "So much for devotion." Meanwhile, a wealthy man appeared, ready to make a deal with a maid wearing the same mask as Kogarashi. Suddenly, Naka's family received a large delivery of cheongsam dresses for her grandfather's 70th birthday party on Saturday. Kosuke mentioned that the grandfather's parties are grand, recalling how he once took a photo with the president's girlfriend, where even the president wasn't fully visible in the picture. Nika wanted to celebrate her grandfather's birthday, but her social anxiety made her dread attending the high society party. Upon reviewing the invitation, Kogarashi noted that it was a masquerade ball where faces wouldn't be shown. Considering her grandfather's age and uncertain future, Nika decided to attend after all. Her grandfather was thrilled to see his grandchildren there. At the same time, the last heir to a corporate dynasty arrived. Kogarashi quipped that his hairstyle screamed villain. Just then, Kogarashi and Fubuki were called to the Maid headquarters. They were informed that a dagger with a cross had been found near the grandfather's pillow that morning, a clear threat. They were instructed to increase security and protect Nika and Kosuke, especially since the uncle with the villainous hair was suspected, accompanied by a maid wearing a mask identical to Kogarashi's. Meanwhile, at the party, Elizabeth knocked out her brother when he ogled another beauty, taking him away. Outside, the guards were suddenly attacked by maids. Although Kogarashi saw nothing suspicious inside, they remained vigilant. During the event, Kosuke complained to their grandfather that a foreign ambassador's son had touched Neika inappropriately. Furious, the grandfather ordered the bodyguards to eject the offender, but Neika calmed him down to avoid international issues. Relieved, Neika heard Kogarashi announce her next task: to walk on stage with Kosuke and present a gift to their grandfather under all the guests' eyes. Neika tried to flee, but was carried on stage by Kogarashi. They managed to deliver the gift, hoping the event would end without further incidents. However, the hall then plunged into darkness. Shizuku appeared, kidnapping Naika and Kosuke and deploying a hypnotic smoke bomb. The area was locked down to catch the suspected kidnapper. The uncle, the mastermind, saw this as an excellent opportunity to threaten. Naika questioned their motives, and Tsurara admired her calmness in the face of danger. Kosuke attempted to escape, but was stopped by Shizuku. Before Tsurara could react, they found themselves surrounded by a mass of wires. It turned out that Kosuke was actually Kogarashi in disguise, who then took control of Tsurara and Shizuku. The masked maid appeared, holding a whistle identical to Fubuki's, putting Kogarashi at a disadvantage. When Neika woke up, she found herself in a room, dressed only in her underwear. The whistle cracked after just one blow. The masked woman remarked that it was a poor quality imitation, usable only once. Suddenly, Neika spoke up, deducing who the mastermind was. It turned out this Neika was also a fake, played by Fubuki. No wonder when the group previously made their move, both Kogarashi and Fubuki inside the venue fainted. They were imposters too. The real Neika, upon waking up, tore a piece of the curtain to wrap around herself and hurriedly escaped. She found Kogarashi seriously injured in the courtyard. Despite Fubuki's usually gentle demeanor, her decisive action against Kogarashi showed she could be relied upon in crucial moments. Neika, looking at the grievously wounded Kogarashi, reminisced about their past troubles, all caused by him. However, she could not accept his sudden death. She declared that she would be angry if Kogarashi didn't wake up. Meanwhile, Fubuki, outnumbered, was already tiring. Before the masked woman could give an order, Kogarashi suddenly revived and attacked them. The masked woman, realizing she couldn't win, fled, claiming that Kogarashi, having been seemingly killed, was now blinded by revenge. As expected, both Fubuki and Neika got caught in the tornado summoned by Kogarashi. The masked woman met with the uncle, hinting at future collaboration. Once Kogarashi regained his senses, he was beaten up by Shunsetsu and Neika. After the party, Neika returned to her daily life. But with over 120 days to the inheritance date, Fubuki and Kogarashi still needed to protect her. I thought this was just a story about inheritance battles, but it turned out to be purely abstract. The production is from Madhouse, a sure dark history, but it really can sell with its fan service, suitable for those who like it. Pure love stories, not so much.